But let me first of all thank you for coming out and taking part in this fact or fiction. So let me start by saying welcome, and as we build one Douglas and create one community. Thank you guys for all your thoughtful comments, because I know we've had some unique comments from Facebook, Instagram, and all facets of communication. So thank you guys for at least communicating to me about your thoughts and your beliefs as to when it comes to data centers. I just want to make one big correction. If you're here anticipating that we're going to cast a vote and decide on bringing a data center or not, you're at the wrong meeting. This is all informational. This meeting is not about bringing in a data center or taking out another data center. This is not what this meeting is all about. So I just really want you to know that your point is well taken, and I hope you'll stay. But if you thought that we were going to be here talking about and dealing with the voting, because none of these guys are commissioners, by the way, so they can't they can't cast a vote for or against a data center. So just want to make sure that's clear. We're going to have a lot of fun, guys. I really appreciate this, and I appreciate you guys' support and understanding that this movement about the conversations about data centers, there's a lot of you guys that are here, and some of you guys are watching it on DC TV 23, and those of you who are online and all this other good stuff that's for and against data centers. But the task today is to make sure you understand the facts about data centers, and these are the experts that's gonna, answer some of the tough questions. And my goal in all of this is to make sure that we understand the best decision on Douglas County from a long-range perspective, and understanding that we're transparent. I want to make sure you know that I'm transparent about this whole thing when it comes to data centers, warehousing, whatever that is that you might think that we're doing something underhanded. And let me also add, I didn't get a dime for making that speech of saying I'm getting something, because again, I hear your speeches, I hear your Facebook posts, I see your things on Sentinel that I'm somehow these guys, or not these guys, but the data centers are lining my pockets. That's not true. That's not true. Now, we just want to make sure that when we have this conversation that we're going to be respectful. That's all I ask, that we be respectful for those who are for the data centers and those who are against. We're going to have a chance to have Q&A and have some dialogue with the experts. And during this conversation now, we got to make sure we don't do a couple of things here. And I need you guys' true support in this. Whether you agree with whatever they say, because I'm not going to make it up for these guys. I didn't give them the Q&A yet. They're going to make the statements known, and that's the fact. If it's fiction, then you're welcome to say, well, that is not true. That may be something different here, so it's okay. But I don't want anybody to start jumping up, yelling and screaming about you are this or you are that, and giving some derogatory information or saying derogatory things, especially to the panelists and to me and to you. So I want us to all be adults, be professionals, be respected. So those are going to be a few of the house rules, that we're going to be professionals. I see people nodding. I like that. That's a good. And whether you agree or disagree, that's okay. I really want to hear your opinion. I really do. And once we have that conversation, it's okay for us to disagree and for us to agree. So can I get a nod that we're going to be adults, we're going to be professionals, and we're going to be respected? Okay, all right. I see the nods. That's a good. So outside of that, if your question may have been asked already, let's not be redundant. Now, we got a nice sized crowd here. We're only going to be here 2 hours. These guys only allotted me 2 hours with them. And I want to make sure that we allot the timing so they can you can ask the questions and they can answer the questions. Not whether you like it or not, But I just don't think, because if I ask the show of hands, which I'm not, that probably everybody in the room want to ask a question or make a statement or whatever. But if that statement has already been asked or stated, can we at least not repeat that same thing, because you're going to get the same dialect from these guys here saying it's the same thing. The answer is it affects or it doesn't affect. So I'm just trying to give everybody in the room a chance to at least come to the microphone, ask a question, and there is no time limit. This is not a Board of Commissioners meeting. You don't have just 2 minutes, but I will try to speed you up. So don't think you're going to get up and tell a story that's going to take you 20 minutes. So if you got a story to tell, give us the elevator speech. Everybody know what the elevator speech is? Okay. So yes, do the elevator version of it so we can kind of get through it, guys, and make it quickly, and it can move fast, and we can kind of get to the meat of what we're here and why we're here. So with that being said, I think we can kind of do this. Yeah. So I'm glad that we're going to be professionals, because we got our kids watching. We've got a couple of TV stations that are pulling this off, and I don't want us to look bad as a county when we make the 11 o'clock news or the 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock news and saying, you're not going to believe Douglas County was out there just showing out. Yeah, showing out. So let's not do that. So be professional, and if you disagree with something somebody said, it's okay. Just understand that's their fact. That's it. And if you disagree with any of these guys, I'm okay with that, because I didn't plan for these guys to say what I want them to say. I want them to say the truth about what it is when it comes to the power company of this. How would we be affected? I want them to say that. Gary, I want you to tell me. Okay.
Absolutely.
Gary, like I'm chastising you now. So on that note, with that being said, we'll start it off by at least introducing the panelists. And if you guys would please, and you got to get up on those mics. I know you guys not used to this. I know y'all we got Gary sitting in as the chair, but we'll start from my far right, and that'll be with you, Breezy, all the way down to Gil. And I just want them to introduce themselves, give us a little background about who you are, kind of what you represent, and not your role in all of this, but kind of who you are and how and what maybe this would affect you if a data center came. Because if it's gone, it's gone. But if it was a data center in place. So is that okay? Can we do that much? Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Speak clearly, and we'll start with Breezy.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Breezy Straighten. I serve as president and CEO of Elevate Douglas Economic Partnership, and I'm the executive director of the Development Authority of Douglas County and the City of Douglasville Development Authority. So my role is that I lead the team that brings economic development projects to the City of Douglasville and to Douglas County. I've been with the organization for 12 and a half years. I am a longtime Metro Atlanta native. I grew up just across Thornton Road in South Cobb County. Went away to college, came home, and my husband and I have raised our two daughters here in the Douglasville community. My mom lives in downtown Douglasville, so everything that affects you as residents affects me as well. And so I'm proud to represent Douglas County internationally and across the nation. I'm very proud of the place that I call home, and I strive every day to make sure that I always lead with integrity and that I never do anything that I wouldn't want done in my own neighborhood or community. So that's a little bit, and I'm going to toss it to Trevor.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? My name is Trevor Quander. I'm the area manager for Georgia Power and Region External Affairs. I cover Douglas and Paulding. I cut my teeth in economic development and community relations. I'm celebrating 30 years this year in utilities. I worked for Atlanta Gas Light also for my first 25 years. I'm also a former resident of Douglas County, raised both my kids here. They went to Chapel Hill High School and graduated and went on to other things. So I've been in this community a long time. I've been serving this community a long time, and I look forward to continuing to do that.
Thank you, Trevor. Mm-hmm.
Good evening. I'm Gary Miller. I'm the president and CEO of Greystone Power. I've been at Greystone, actually been at Greystone since 1991. I've been the CEO since 1997, which is about 27 years now. A lot of you probably get your power from Greystone. If not, you're getting it from Georgia Power.
The other guy.
And,
The other guy.
The other guy. Greystone serves part of 8 counties, Douglas and Paulding, probably the 2 largest counties that we serve. But we serve portions of 8. We have 138,000 individuals, homes, businesses that we serve, and when you equate that to meters, about 158,000 meters that we serve. So we're the 4th largest of the 41 EMCs in Georgia. I would add, we currently have 3 data centers under contract. 1 we're serving now, 2 are still under construction.
Great. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Ray. I'm president and CEO of the Douglas County Chamber. And with my role in regards to data centers, we work really closely with Elevate Douglas and the Development Authority. They work the projects. We work in this more of the space of a community engagement standpoint. So once they're here, once we know they're coming here, how are they integrating with our partners from businesses, nonprofits, and what are the needs of our community and how do we kind of connect the dots? Personally, I have been at the Chamber for almost 17 years, took over as CEO about 9 years ago, and so have been working to support our business community over almost 2 decades, which is crazy. And I personally grew up here in Douglas County, product of the school system, and was that person that went away to college. I was like, I'm never coming back here, and literally made my way back down to the community, and I'm proud to be here and supporting our businesses and our residents in all the things that make our community so great. So happy to be here.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm James Worthington. I'm the Managing Director of Development and Planning for Douglas County. We oversee all of the development side of things, the plan review, permitting, planning, zoning, engineering, regardless of what the project is, data center or not.
Right.
So we oversee all of that, so it will definitely have an impact on us regardless of it. I too, like these other folks, consider myself a native. I grew up in Austell. I have been here 26 years. I've been in this role for just over 10 years now, so background civil engineering, glad to be here. Hope to answer a lot of questions for y'all.
All right, last but certainly not least.
The Waterman.
Yeah, the Waterman. That's who I am. I'm the Waterman. Yeah, I'm the executive director at the Douglas County Water and Sewer Authority. My name's Gil Strauss. I've been the director for a little over 12 years. Now I've been at the Water and Sewer Authority for 21.5 years. I've lived in Douglas County since 2001. After graduating college, I moved out here for my first job and have been out here since. I raised my family out here. My kids have gone through public school. One of them still in public school. One is at West Georgia Technical College, just right down the road. Been in the water industry for almost 30 years. Now I get the joy of serving in a few other water industry related roles around the state. I'm on the Water and Wastewater Licensing Board for the state of Georgia. I serve as a utility representative appointed by the governor. I'm serving my second term there. I'm also the Douglas County representative at the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District. Sarah Ray's also on that board with us, representing Douglas County on metro water planning needs. And then I'm also the current president at the Georgia Association of Water Professionals, which is essentially one of the 2 major statewide industry organizations for water. I say all that to let our community know Douglas County is well represented, around the region and around the state.
Well, I think that deserves a round of applause. The state, I mean, he's the president. I gotta say that's a huge compliment. So we really want to just acknowledge you and say thank you for what you do and all that good stuff. So, on that note, I'm Commissioner Henry Mitchell III, District 1 Commissioner, and taking on the task of trying to make sure that we get rid of the myth, get the truth, talk about the facts of actually the impact when it comes to a data center, Family Dollar, storage unit. It's kind of wide open. But the main focus is about the data centers because that's what our community has been struggling with, trying to understand. The facts are, will it affect our water? And for those of you who want to start, not lining up, but Daryl, Hello. Daryl, if you'll kind of make sure that, because we want you guys to get to the microphone and ask your questions, but I don't want to see a long line out the building where everybody do a mad rush. We want to try to get everybody in. However, I just want to make sure that we kind of in an orderly fashion that we do this. So if we can kind of at least get one while I'm having this conversation, whoever, if you want to step up to the microphone and look like you want to jump and go, you can start. Okay, but what I was alluding to though is that we want to have the conversation and the big boy conversations about data centers, the big boy conversations about how it's going to impact our community. And I think we all are concerned with things like infrastructure, water, power, development. I mean, and I think it's a fair statement that you have that we want to make sure that you have the conversation. So if you'll step up to the mic and we'll start. But before we do that, are there anything else from my panelists that they would like to add to the conversation before we get these guys starting to ask the questions? I mean, if you want to add anything that you want to say that's in reference to, Sarah, don't look like you, okay, jump in, Sarah.
The only thing I want to
Okay.
add is
Okay.
that I know, we've had data centers here in Douglas for 20
Well, let's talk
plus
about that.
years.
Hold on one second. Have a seat. So let's talk about that. You're absolutely correct.
That's
So-
probably more of a breezy part. I was just going to tee it off.
Okay,
but-
tee it off and then, because you're absolutely right. Let's go there first.
Yeah, all I was going to say is that we've had data centers. This is not a new conversation for us and the leadership, even predating myself as CEO at the Chamber, of things that we've been navigating. And representation from this panel has spoken across, I can't even say, dozens of different organizations on a statewide, on a national level, of helping know and understand how we've navigated that in Douglas. And I'm not saying we have it perfectly, and every data center situation is a different conversation. It's a different project. It's a different environment. But we have been seen as a go-to resource in how we manage water, how we manage power, how we manage projects. And I'm not saying that in a space to say we're like the best at doing it, or that we have all the answers, or that every decision that's made is the right or wrong one. But I do want to attest that we have a great group of experts that are here and pouring water all over everything, that we do have a great group of here. And there might be voices that you're looking to hear from that aren't here. I know there was some feedback, social, like about healthcare concerns and things like that. So even if the answers don't exist here, that doesn't mean that we don't have the willpower or the accessibility to do that. That's all I was going to say.
Breezy, do you mind jumping in?
And I'm sorry if I've
Not at all,
We
sir.
love you. We love you, Breezy.
So Sarah is absolutely right. Google first came to Douglas County in 2003, so they've been here since for about 23 years. And it really speaks to having Google here helped us in a lot of ways. When you have an industry titan call your family home, one that is so available to us to ask the hard questions, especially as more data centers started to come and want to call Douglas County home, them helping us to understand the industry itself, what we needed, the questions we needed to ask, it was just invaluable to the success that we have. And so we actually started recruiting data centers back in 2012, 2013, and that was strategic on our part. If you have ever gone on the eastern side of our county, Thornton Road, Riverside Parkway, you have a lot of warehousing over there, correct? Everybody can agree with that? Yeah. Right, okay. So our road infrastructure was not conducive to more warehousing. But when you have land that's industrially zoned, you have to be considerate of those landowner rights. So you think, oh man, what could we do here instead of putting a warehouse that's going to create a lot more truck traffic, a lot more resident or worker traffic with cars, because a lot of those warehouses, they do create jobs, but when you create jobs, you create traffic. And so when you think about weighing the benefits of the various industries, data centers added value to our community in a way that a warehouse wouldn't. And it still used the same acreage of land. And so we started recruiting them because we wanted to diversify our tax base, because if you recall back in 07, 08, Douglas County had a heavy residential construction tax base, and when it went bust, we had a lot of pipe farms around. Our tax digest suffered tremendously, Commissioner, yes, And so thinking about how do you relieve the burden of residents, how do you also diversify the tax base so that you have various industries contributing to the greater good of the community. Data centers provided an industry sector that used the land at its highest and best use, did not create additional truck traffic on those roads, especially Riverside Parkway, and it also allowed us to become more in the technology space, because even in then, technology was the emerging market. Everyone was looking for ways to get more technology-driven jobs. Cybersecurity was just coming on. Data centers are part of all of that landscape and infrastructure. So for us, the recruitment of data centers were very strategic. It started in 2012. It ended in 2023. So in economic development, we run off of what we call a targeted industry sector. In 2023, we did our second strategic plan, and we removed data centers from our targeted industry list, which means we no longer recruit data centers. We stopped back then. Anyone that was already in the pipeline was in the pipeline. We still gave them the great customer service that we always would have, but we no longer actively recruit them. And I can tell you right now, we don't have a data center that we're tracking at all in our community. Some land has been rezoned for data centers, so we're watching those and we are assisting as needed, but those are considered to be proposed or in the design phase, and so there is no new data centers that we are actively working. That can change in 5 minutes. I could get an email. So this is as of whatever the time is right now.
Right.
But just to say, it's not something we're spending energy on. We're not going out to data center conferences. We have switched to actively recruit life sciences, pharmaceuticals, those same type of industry sectors that need the same level of infrastructure. Will create a little more jobs, although our data centers do create a lot of jobs, which is probably one of the myths that we should address. A lot of times you hear data centers aren't creating jobs, and data centers use a lot of specific trained professionals, a lot of the skilled trades. And so oftentimes, instead of having them as where the data center is their employer of record, they actually contract with subject matter experts to make sure that they have those trade skills at their facility. But those individuals every single day come to that data center and they call Douglas County home where they work because they come there every day. It's because where they're contracted. But if you looked at their employer of record, it wouldn't say that Google or Microsoft or Switch is their employer. It would say whatever the subject matter expert firm that they work for is. And that happens a lot when you get in more advanced technical type industries.
So how old, and you guys get ready because I'm going to get to the power side of this. How old would you say the Switch, the Googles, and those guys are when they came along? And then we'll get into the power.
You mean how long have they been in Douglas?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
So like I mentioned, Google came in 2003. I believe PwC came in 2011. You have some of the more co-locations. ATL2 and Atlanta Data Center has been here since 2000, maybe 2001. They are smaller data centers. Right. Switch we announced in 2017. Microsoft we announced in 2020. Flex Central was 21 and Aligned was 22. So.
And stay there though.
I'm here.
The question, though, is now to my power guys, what effect, so we as a public, what effect did it have on the power side of it? And Gil, you get ready as well. What effect did that usage of just using those guys as a hypothetical, what kind of power usage did it affect our community? Meaning, did you have to build a new transformer? And I don't know what you guys do. I just know I turn my lights on and it works. But did it affect our usage from a homeowner's perspective? Did our rates go up? Did all of a sudden you guys had to build something else to cause our rates to go up? Or what impact did it have from a power side of things?
So let me first put a disclaimer that everything I'm saying is for Greystone Power. I'm not speaking for Georgia Power. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I can only speak for what we're doing
Understood.
At Greystone.
Thanks for the disclaimer.
Some of the data centers that Breezy mentioned, we were serving, have served, and some of them are Georgia Power, so it's kind of split. But if you want to go back and talk about those that have been here a long time, I mean,
Okay.
there was, you go all the way back to Cable and Wireless was here when I went to Greystone in '91 as a data center. But I will say those data centers at that time were at a much lower scale than what we see with the data centers coming today. But there were no issues with any of those. We served them out of our existing resources that we serve all of our homes and businesses out of. And, you know, the loads, everything was fine, and it was not affecting rates at all.
Okay, okay.
I will say, you know, and we may pivot, you know, to this question later. I don't want
Yes,
to jump
we will.
ahead
Yes,
here.
they're coming.
But I would say the data centers that we're dealing with today, we treat differently than
Understood.
that. So at whatever point we want to talk about that, I'll talk about that. But the older data centers we're talking about, we're just part of the everyday mix of all of the commercial and residential businesses that we serve. They were treated no differently, and you know, they were
And I'm gonna let
smaller loads. But
And I'm going to let Trevor speak, and then I'm going to just, really what I'm listening for, and I think what we're looking for is kind of what impact did it have to us as a citizen? You know, did my power rate go up because you had a low-end data center to the newer ones that are forthcoming? So,
And I would say to that, you know,
Yes.
I mean, look, our commercial rates pay more generally than our residential rates. So
Oh.
if anything, you know, the commercial side is subsidizing the residential. People don't always believe that or you know, think that, but that is the reality. So those that we're serving would have been a, you know, higher rate for those than we charge to our residential rates.
so you're telling me commercial charges a higher rate than the residential community when it comes to power?
All of our small commercial is, you know, that's where, you know, they pay a higher rate than any other rate. Some of the very large commercial, and I'm not talking data centers here, but some of our large commercials, we compete for those under Georgia law. You know, anything over 900 kW, we're bidding on, we're competing.
Right.
And, you know, but I would say all of them carry their cost, and we are making money on all of them, but those costs, you know, can vary. They're not quite at the level of maybe our small commercial are.
Understood.
But our residential rates are subsidized by those rates.
But the bottom line is the power I use is what I pay for, not
That's
what
right.
Trevor
The
uses.
rate you pay.
Yep.
Okay, Trevor.
Yeah, when data centers first came to Georgia, they were a bit of a surprise for us,
Okay.
honestly. The load requirement that they were asking for at that particular time, we had not seen.
Okay.
So they were demanding a lot of use for electricity. And we have what is called an integrated resource plan, an IRP we do for a 20-year forecast, and we look at how much electricity we're going to need to supply, for supply and demand for not just residential and commercial, but industrial as well. And so we've had to go back and recalibrate and reforecast those IRPs because of the amount of energy that data centers require. So, now having said that, once that occurred, we started to effectively work on putting together regulation and strategies in place to make sure data centers pay their fair share of cost up front. Because what we don't want to do is pass that on to the ratepayers, right?
Got it.
So, Public Service Commission mandated that data centers coming into the state of Georgia that we deal with pay their fair share up front, cover the
You
bulk
said
of the
up front, though,
infrastructure.
did I hear that right?
Yeah, so, I mean, like, that's everything. That's the infrastructure cost.
I get it. I just wanted to make sure we heard it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's a large requirement. A lot of
Yes.
a lot of data centers didn't want to hear that, and
Absolutely.
some of them don't like that. But you know what it helped to do? It helped to separate the real from.
From separate
Okay.
those who are just trying to inquisitively find out what data center.
Yeah.
I think I want to do this. I want to go into this business versus you're going to pay a healthy cost to get into this business.
Right.
So
Yes.
you need to be sure you want to get in this business.
That part.
Okay.
So they sign contracts up front. They sign term use. Last thing we want them to do is come in, sign a deal with us for 15 years, and then in 7 years, they all of a sudden they're bowing out. So
Right.
they pay for the entire 15-year, and they also pay minimum billing. So we require billing from them even before they even get started running good. So they're paying upfront costs, and that's allowing us to actually put downward pressure on rates for our residential customers.
Oh.
So we've been able to freeze rates for the next 3 years. And having said that, in 2029, when we start realizing some of the benefits from these data center builds, we're actually able to lower rates. And that's in Georgia. I can't speak for any other state in the nation. I know not everyone is handling data centers properly or well, but in Georgia, we're doing a really, really good job of that, and we set that up front. So.
Got it.
And so Henry, if I
Yes,
can
yes,
just
go ahead,
kind
yeah.
of tag into this, because
Okay.
a lot of what Trevor was talking about here are the data centers that are coming today.
Correct.
And I was talking about the data centers that had been here. So let me
Yes.
kind of address that too, so you get
You
both
got it.
sides from us. And first I'll say at Greystone, we have a totally different business model, okay? We're a cooperative. We're owned by our members. We don't have shareholders. So all costs are passed through the rates. So we are hypersensitive to the impact of cost, impact of things on our members as a whole. We have from day one with data centers done exactly what Trevor says, and that is you're going to pay your cost up front. We will not serve them out of the same generating plants that we're serving our current customers today. So every data center we're serving, they'll come in, and a lot of them we're serving are their tenants. They'll tell us, I've got a 15-year lease. So we go to the market and buy a 15-year block of power, so
Right.
that when you leave at 15 years, I don't have a power. I'm not on the hook. Our members are not on the hook for any power after that period of time. And they're posting parent guarantees, and we're only dealing with data centers whose credit rating is higher than all the banks. I mean, we asked one about posting a letter of credit, and they said we can post a letter of credit, but our credit rating is higher than any bank you're going to get a letter of credit from. So, these are the companies, the Googles, the Amazons that, you're not really expecting they're going to go bankrupt, on you. And so, but we are requiring all of that up front. We will not make any infrastructure improvement that they haven't paid for. Not only that they commit to pay for, but until I get the check, we don't start work, on that. So I will agree with Trevor. Our analysis is, and data centers are not, at least the ones we're serving, okay, and how we're doing it. I'm not going to speak for the whole country or what may
Right.
be different, but
Understood.
at Greystone, your rates are not going up because of a data center. I can absolutely sit here and tell you that today. Your rates are not going up because of a data center. And in fact, the data centers have, the way they operate puts pressure to lower cost. Because I'm going to take, as I said, with our members, we have to pass all costs through our rates. When I can take fixed costs and spread them over large amounts of power from data centers, I can, in some of these, we could cut our fixed cost in half that are in our rates to residential by passing them through to the data centers. So our analysis has shown that they will have the tendency to lower it.
Well, you can't guarantee that. I get it.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't hear me say your bill is going down.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to ask. So I'm looking forward to this now. Right.
It has a tendency, and I hope it does, but here's the thing. There are other factors that affect your power bill. What's the cost of natural gas that's using to generate the power? What's the cost of the turbines and the plants and the operating costs there? So the data centers are going to be working against that. If it's enough of it to offset all of that cost, then I think rates can come down. But because there are other costs involved, I'm not comfortable to say your bills are going down because of data center. But I am very comfortable saying your bills are not going up because of data centers.
Got it. Okay. All right. We'll let the water and sewer guy, Mr. President, over here kind of do his thing right quick. So.
Yeah, so much like my friends in the power business, data center or any development, they come in, they need infrastructure, they're gonna build the infrastructure that they need. The Water and Sewer Authority does not do that for them. The customers of the Water and Sewer Authority doesn't pay for that. No rates go to development of infrastructures for any private development. That's not how the model works. And the other thing about rates, very similarly, no community rates goes to offset data center or any other type of private development, any type of customer. Where we differ a little bit from my power friends is, in the water business, we manage a finite resource, right? Like, we only get the amount of water that Mother Nature gives us that falls on our land and that we can collect and manage and treat here in our community. We're blessed with a good amount of natural resources, but we have to manage that. We have to steward that well. And at the Water and Sewer Authority, and I will tell you, me personally, I take that responsibility very highly, very seriously. We are not going to give away our precious resources just to anybody. We're going to make sure that the resources allocated to a project are commensurate with the benefit back to the community. And candidly, a lot of that's done at the commission level, at the zoning level, right? We provide input to those decision makers as to what resources are required, but we're not giving those, because we manage a very finite resource, we have to do extremely long-range planning. We do a 50-year water supply plan in the water business. That's very tough to do, but we do it because we believe strongly in managing those resources for our community. And so when a project comes in, data center or anything else, if it fits within that long-term water supply master plan, great. You know, they fall within what we had generally planned for, you know, development in that area on tracks of that size. And I will tell you, most data centers that come into our community fall within the plan because they're not using a lot of water or any water for cooling. Two primary types of data centers relative to water use. Some use water for cooling, some do not. Most fall within that category of little or no water use for cooling, so they fall within our long-term plan. And it's an easy yes from us because we've already planned for that, you know, future development, that future growth in the community. We do have a few that do use water for cooling, and if they exceed that long-term plan for that resource, we do one of two things. And to be blunt, we tell them no. And Breezy, of all people, knows very well that when we have those conversations, if we haven't planned for that resource use, they're going somewhere else to another community, or we will work with them on a different resource use. And Google is a great example. You asked about Google and
Yes.
Switch. I'll come back to Switch too. Google's a great example of, they use a certain amount of water for cooling. It exceeded our long-term plan. When they came in 2003, when they expanded in 2006 or 7, 8, somewhere around there, they were requesting an amount of water that we had not planned for, and so we essentially said, no, you cannot go on our potable water system, the system that you guys use for drinking and bathing and all of that. But we worked with them to develop a different resource, which at the time was very unique in the United States, and it is now, you know, first class, world known. We do a lot of presentations on wise resource management using that Google model, and now a lot of communities have started to do that. The essence of what we do is we take wastewater that we have treated. So when, I hate to be crass, but when you guys flush your toilets, we take that wastewater, we treat it, turn it back to the environment. In this case, we take treated wastewater and treat it additionally for Google's use in cooling their servers, and it's a great use of that resource. It's great stewardship of that resource. Again, we did that a long time ago. That's 20 years ago. Now it's been working great. Again, kind of first class model for a lot of communities now that are replicating that model.
So if I hear you correctly, drinking water differs from wastewater as to what you use, if I heard that correctly.
Correct, yeah. So it's very simply, drinking water primarily comes from our Dog River Reservoir. We take that raw water, that untreated water, we treat it at our Bear Creek Water Treatment Plant, and we send it through pipes and, you know, the storage tanks to your homes. That is called potable water, drinking water. Okay. What we use for Google for their cooling system is called non-potable water or reuse water. It means we're reusing that water. It's not treated to the same degree for drinking purposes. And Google paid every dime of that project. We paid 0 cents for that. They pay 100% of our operating costs. We own and operate it for them, but they pay 100% of that operating cost. No cost goes back to the ratepayer of Douglas County.
What effect with well water? I got an email or two from somebody spoke about well water. What effect does that have in your process?
I'm going to try really hard not to nerd out on you guys.
Okay.
I can.
Okay.
Well water in our part of Georgia isn't a real big issue. In the Piedmont area, we don't have a lot of groundwater resources.
Okay.
Most of our water supply, most of our water resources are surface water. So we have creeks and rivers and streams. We impound those to build reservoirs. We use those primarily. Well water in our area is a minor use. It's not a major player in water supply.
Got it. Because I just happened to get that question, guys. So I'm just trying to get all your emails and texts and all the other stuff that I've received. So I want to ask those questions. So somebody mentioned about well water. So I
Great question.
just want to know. Okay, if you'll stand to the microphone, my friend, and you don't have to give your blood type, your name, or anything like that, but just state
good-
your case.
Good evening. My name's
But
Ted
let me
Simon.
let me stop you there, though. Now, we're not going to do a whole entire that page there, right?
It's a whole, I mean, it'll take
Okay.
2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes. You got it. Okay.
My name's Ted Simon, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to offer my thoughts tonight. During my career, I worked at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in the Atlanta office, and I became an expert on conducting risk assessments, also known as impact assessments. And the question answered by these were, what are the risks and benefits of various options for a planned project? In other words, this is decision analysis. Now, in some cases, the decision was obvious, but other times, more information was needed, and we had to do a separate value of information analysis. How much would it cost to obtain the information, and would it be worth it? Now, the question in my mind tonight is how the projected need for electrical power and water of the data centers, let's say in the future in Douglas County, will impact the citizens. Do Greystone Power, Georgia Power, and DDC-WSA have sufficient capacity to supply electricity and water to both the future data centers and the future citizens? Now, I'll note that our county is one of the fastest growing in the U.S. Will the needs of the data centers be met without impacting the lives of this county's citizens? Now, if future summers are as hot or hotter than this one, how many citizens might be unable to afford possible, despite what I've heard tonight, higher water and power bills and possibly suffer heat-related health effects? Has a formal risk analysis or impact analysis been conducted to address these questions? And if so, has this work then been audited by an unbiased third party? Other issues lurk in the background too. The tech companies building these data centers are highly leveraged, and their success in business is far from certain. Failure or bankruptcy of these companies could impact the U.S. economy at large and worsen the impacts on the citizens of Douglas County that I already mentioned. I've lived in this county for 40 years. It's a fine place to live, and as a citizen, I want this quality of life to be maintained. So can any documentation or answers to some of these questions be provided? Thank you.
Now,
So,
okay, I'll just say, I think a lot of it was already stated, but I'll allow you guys to kind of chime in where you see fit.
so,
Add to what you
Okay,
just said.
hold on.
When I say a
Yes.
formal analysis, a document.
I understand. I get exactly what you're saying. But yes, you guys go right ahead.
So to the point of, is there enough capacity to serve data centers now and into the future? I would say there's going to be new generation has to be built, okay? There is not enough excess capacity in the market today to serve all of this. Now, that said, the 3 data centers we're serving out of excess capacity in the market. There was no new construction. We contracted for that on the market. And those contracts are assigned directly to the data centers, and the data centers are 100% responsible. So those are not even commingled into our rates or to our other members. As I said, we're not serving anything out of our existing portfolio that we're serving members. But yes, there will need to be additional generation built in the state to serve data centers to have enough capacity to do it. The capacity markets today are almost, are pretty dry now in serving all the loads and stuff that we have, to the point that we need new generation built.
Trevor, you want to add to that?
To answer your question, yes. I mentioned earlier our integrated resource plan. That's part of the forecasting that we do. We do an in-depth study, and it's for third parties. We're mandated by the Public Service Commission. So every contract that we undergo is scrutinized by them and staff, and that's a third party. So saying all of that, the requirement is a lot. Well, we're vertically integrated, which means we make, move, and sell energy. So we create and sell energy ourselves. We don't actually have to purchase it. So we have generation planning, and we go through these processes yearly and look at what we have in our queue, how many megawatts we have available, and look at what's being asked. And based off of that, this is how we plan our resources accordingly going forward in the future. And again, that integrated resource plan is a 20-year outlook. So we're looking out 20 years. I think the water folks do the same thing or something similar to that.
Let's let the water
50,
people-
but who's counting, Trevor?
5-0.
Yeah, so you want to add to that, Gil?
So yeah, very, very similar on the water side, as already mentioned before. We have a 50-year water supply master plan that is to do exactly what you're saying, right? To make sure that we can serve the needs of our community long term. Data centers or any other development, if they come in, they fit within the plan, great. If not, they do something else, right? That's how we ensure that the long term viability of our water resources are good. As far as documents and approvals and things like that in the water business, we're regulated a little bit different than the power business. We're regulated by EPA, who you're familiar with, obviously. They have delegation in Georgia to the Georgia Environmental Protection Division. They're our primary permit agency. We have gobs of permits with the EPD, both on water withdrawal, water supply, water treatment, water distribution, collection, treatment, municipal separate storm sewer systems. There's a bunch of them. Primarily, that is how the regulators review our long-term plans, is through permits. So we have to comply with EPD and EPA regulations for permits, and part of that also is the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District. Their long-term plans, we have to fall within their guidelines as well. A big part of that for us in water supply is our reservoir. If you don't know, here in the room we are expanding our Dog River Reservoir. That is a really large project for our community. Interestingly enough, sir, and to your point, that project is more about drought resiliency than it is growth. And I can bore you with all the stats, but I'll just leave it with that in the interest of time. We don't need more water for growth than what we already have. We need a more reliable bucket for holding our water. So that the bulk of that project is all about droughts are getting more severe, more frequent, and we need a more reliable storage tank. Basically, we need a bigger bucket so when that next drought comes, you all tend to want water even when it's a drought, and I don't understand why y'all keep saying things like that. So we're doing things like that to make sure that we can provide for long-term resiliency, reliability, and the future growth of our community that our community planners have planned for.
And with these guys potentially bellying up, or the fastest growing county from what he just stated, if they belly up, I think I heard, they pay up front, if by chance that's the case. So we're kind of sort of protected, not guaranteed. But is that the route? I don't know, James, if you want to add into that conversation about, we're the fastest growing county, based on this gentleman's.
May I add
sure.
one thing before James does?
Okay,
One
sure.
of the things I didn't mention in our introductions is one that I am part of the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District, but I also serve as the citizen board member for the Atlanta Regional Commission on behalf of Douglas
is correct,
County.
yeah.
And we just announced our newest population growth percentages, and we are technically not one of the fastest growing counties
Oh,
in
okay,
the
okay.
nation. And in the region, we have steady growth, which I feel like is very reassuring. There is not a rapid, crazy influx of growth that is projected through 2050 for our community. We do have an influx, but we're not anywhere compared to the Gwinnett's of the world or the Cobb's of the world. We have a steady growth, but it's not in the hundreds of thousands of people.
Got it.
It's a gradual, steady growth, which is great because we can plan accordingly for
But
that.
we're building, and I know so from the city and the county, but when I look at 285 and 20, they're opening the floodgates, so I guess they're coming. They're just not here yet.
Correct.
Okay,
And
thank you.
and they have several studies. And Ted, it's nice to see you. My brother, Sarah Cruikshank. So you used to coach my brothers in soccer. It's nice to see
Oh,
you.
okay.
I know. I was like, wait, I know this guy.
Yeah.
But also one of the things that I want to kind of bring up before James chimes in, and I was actually going to reference this, is in regards to risk studies. It's not just a risk on the power, the infrastructure side, but any project, and Breezy can attest to this as well, any project that comes through, they're doing impact studies from public safety, from schools, from
Yes.
education. So it's not just how the impact is from an infrastructure standpoint. It's also how, and it's not just for data centers. It's if we have townhomes coming in, if we have larger businesses, and I'm sure you can chime in on that, but it's not, this isn't an isolated incident and conversation in population growth just with data centers or people moving here and how it impacts that. It's with everything across the board. So
James, you want to
Chad.
add to that conversation?
Certainly, so there's a lot to unpack there. But,
I know.
I guess first off, as Sarah mentioned, we do, as part of our approval process through planning and zoning, anytime there's any kind of rezoning, the planning and zoning department sends out impact studies to multiple different agencies, including some of these folks, as was mentioned, the school board, fire marshal, DOT.
But they're on planning and zoning. They're on the school board. They're actually on.
They're
planning.
represented as
Okay,
well. But,
okay.
it goes out to a lot of different departments. We receive all those from public safety, fire, sheriff. We compile all that and present all that to the board so they have a good basis to make a decision off
Correct.
of. I guess next thing would be if any of these companies go out of business or go bankrupt. At this point, the way we handle everything, there's nothing that would be left for the citizens or the taxpayers to pick up the tab on. Because we wouldn't go in and finish the building and
Correct.
run or maintain the data center. We bond out any kind of road improvements. We bond out landscaping or tree requirements and things. So if they were to go out in the middle of the process, we would be able to cover those, get the repairs made back up to the standard that it was, or improvements. We've been doing the bonding for, I don't know, many, many decades. And so it's a proven track record. We've not been stuck with any bills that we've had to pass on to the taxpayers.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. That was a lot to unpack, guys. I apologize for that, but go right ahead, sir.
Okay, I don't have as much to unpack, but I do want to say
Okay.
that everyone up there makes the data centers seem like they're just beautiful, something great to have. And what I've seen,
Okay.
riding in Fayetteville one day, I saw these big buildings just came out of nowhere after I left my friend's house. I was like, what is that? A data center. That was not a beautiful site where it was located. So my question is, would anyone want a data center 3 blocks from them? Or what about the sound? Some people say it's no sound. I personally don't know. He said it was. I was watching David Muir one night, and a lady was talking about data centers, and she was talking about the turbine. And I was hearing it on my TV, like, what's the noise? She said, y'all can hear the noise right now. It was very loud. So I personally don't know that, but what about the sites, the property value? When a data center is built in a neighborhood, does the property value drop? They're not very good looking, and also the sound, the constant noise.
Okay, so I kind of heard a couple of things there, though. So I don't know who wants to jump in. I don't know, Jamie, if you want to jump in when we talking
Sure.
about the aesthetics, what it looks like, and I'm going to have to ask you because we gotta kind of get somebody else in though. But
Okay.
can we hit a couple of those?
Sure, certainly. So aesthetics, particularly in the data district, what we call that area down around the Thornton Road between I-20 and the river and Sweetwater Park, where the bulk of these are. We have had a huge number of warehouses that are just as large, million square foot buildings. I agree they're not, as beautiful as some other developments. They are, we do a lot of work with them to get colors, facades, landscaping as best as you can disguise a building of that size. We do a lot of work with that, take a lot of pride in trying to get to a good point. As far as the noise, there is a lot of information out there, and I want to just say there's a lot of different kinds of data centers, not the center itself, but how they're operated. Across the country, some are doing on-site generation. Perhaps these guys can talk about it a little more, but where basically you're moving the power plant on site. So you're getting a lot of extra noise that you would have from a power plant. Most of ours, I don't know of any of ours that have on-site generation. They have backup generators that would run just in the case of an outage. But I would encourage you all to go down, like if you go on Switch Way, which is the road between Google and Switch, public road, you can drive down there, roll your windows down, and listen and see what you hear.
I did that, yeah.
Generally, now I'm old and have hard hearing, but generally what I hear is the traffic on Thornton Road.
I do too.
Not any kind of howling generators or anything like turbines. I'm not saying that couldn't happen somewhere, but that's been my experience, so just want to pass
And
that
I would
on.
agree, though. I mean, I think I even went and did just what you just stated. And I think we all should actually do that, do the work. I mean, go in and take a listen, because I heard that same thought about noise. So I said, let me go and listen. Now, I didn't go down at 3 o'clock in the morning, but at my house, I hear the train more than I hear anything. So now, I'm not saying that the noise doesn't exist. I'm not saying that anything of that caliber doesn't exist or anything. Yes, but I'm only saying to you though that noise. I think I hear more noise from the train's perspective than I do with the data centers that I went through and tried to find that noise situation though. But again, I'm not.
Or if you go out west to Winston, it's cows. Or if you go that other Thornton Road,
Yes.
it's trucks. So
Yeah.
it's all of the things.
And Breezy, look like you want to chime in right quick.
Yeah, I was just going to add that kudos to our development services team, because one of the things that they've been really great about holding steady is not allowing for concessions to be made to the ordinances that already exist. And so Douglas County already has noise ordinances.
That's
and so
correct.
all of our data centers, none of them have received a variance of any kind to be able to be louder than what is already allowed to exist. I would also say you could go down Riverside Parkway and go on North River Road. It's where Gordon Food Service Southeast headquarters is located. But back there is where we have several data centers, and there's some construction going on. So if you go during the day, you're going to hear the construction. But in the evening, 7 o'clock, if you were to drive down North River Road, you might hear a slight hum, maybe. I've done it probably 10 times, and twice I've heard a slight hum, but the other times I haven't. And so it's one of those things where setbacks and any kind
Buffers
of
and all that good stuff.
buffers,
Yeah,
all of
yes.
those things become very important. And but the noise ordinance and not allowing any kind of concessions to be made around that, I think, has helped our community not have the type of noise that you do hear. And again, I'm going to give a disclaimer, kind of like Gary did. I can only speak about Douglas County and Douglas County data centers. I have not worked in other communities. I have never represented a data center, so I can only tell you what we do here, how we hold their feet to the fire on the commitments that they've made, how we work with our partners in planning and zoning, power, water, in order to ensure that the decisions that are being made for you all as residents and me as a resident also is being made with the best of intention, and that we're doing the best we can to move our county forward. So, but we don't ask for any kind of conditions or any kind of concessions to be made. So,
Nor do we give any.
yeah.
So, okay, that's from the Board of Commissioners. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. My name is Richard Dewberry. I have lived in the county off and on for the past 50 years.
Okay.
Lived in Lithia Springs. One question I had really brief for you, Commissioner Mitchell.
For me? Okay.
Real fast, because it goes to my main point.
Okay.
I see we've got representatives of Georgia Power, the planning commissions, the engineering, water and sewer. In my previous career, I've worked with a lot of them doing engineering work. I wanted to ask, did we have any invitations go out to operators of data centers who might be able to explain, as questions have come up, how these things are built?
Got
to
it.
answer that, were those invitations handed out?
And I didn't personally invite anyone from the data center, but I didn't uninvite anybody. So
Okay.
if they want to show up like you, because I thought it was important to you guys, to know and what that is. However, I don't want to be unfair to them to try to speak on a data center or anything of that caliber. I just wanted the experts to share with you the facts and fictions about what we're saying. I heard on the internet that this is what will happen and what it won't happen. Now, I think you got a valid point. This is not the last meeting when it comes to data centers, Family Dollars, any business that we're there. We're going to have many more meetings like this so we can be actually educated and be sure and understand exactly what it is that we may or may not get. Now, will we have another meeting that would probably include data center operators? Yes, and I'll welcome that. So Daryl, make that a note, that we actually invite on our next one or whatever one we do again, that we'll do that. So thank you.
Now I'd like to get to my larger
Oh,
point, and then I'll
okay.
step aside. This is the
Okay.
larger for everybody, because the question I really had about all this, and it's what drove all this attendance, is a general, to be blunt, mistrust.
Understood.
There's a big mistrust of government all forms, all sides, not indicting one or the other, just
Got it.
saying that people don't trust government right now.
Got it.
So one of the things that has come up, and I would like some information from the county on this, is that a lot of these data center discussions that are being held, or development discussions that are being held, are being done under non-disclosure,
Got it.
okay?
Okay.
That breeds distrust.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that any future discussions that take place are done in the open. If these things are so wonderful, as people have said, that's a valid question. If they're so wonderful, why hide it?
Okay. So can I chime in?
Yes, at this
Okay.
point, I've answered. I've asked.
I don't know if you was here when my earlier statement about transparency.
Right.
This is what this is all about. I want to be out, open and honest, and I'm just a transparent guy, and I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to try to be a politician and tell you that, oh yeah, it's going to be great. Just let these guys say what I want them to say, or I'm lining my pocket. That's not at all. So I think you're right. We've got to build a trust, but we got to also educate. We got to inform. We got to add all of this in that whole trust factor, because right now, you're right. There's a lack of trust that breeds deceptions, that breeds indecisions of what you're saying, like, I don't believe what these guys are saying, and that the commissioners are back in the back room striking deals and hurting you guys. I'm not there. That's not me. I can't speak for my colleagues. Yeah, I can't speak for my colleagues. I can only say, Commissioner Mitchell, if you ask me, you'll get the truth.
May I, go ahead.
Yeah, let me just jump in a minute.
Oh boy, that's excited some stuff here, huh?
And Breezy's probably going to want to jump in here too, but I would say, first on non-disclosure agreements, they're pretty common with commercial development. I think the Development Authority, every potential load or a customer business that they're looking to recruit, generally under non-disclosure agreements. One, real estate prices go through the roof. If we knew, let's just hypothetically say Costco's looking to locate in Douglasville, you know what, the price of land's going to go up, because every time somebody
Absolutely.
wants to buy it, they're going to say, this is where Costco's coming. The other thing we're under non-disclosure agreements on our power deals with them. The biggest thing is they're not trying to hide it from our members. They don't want the other data centers to know what they're getting, what they're doing. Part of their even how many megawatts they're using and their scale to them are trade secrets
Right.
of how they
Yes.
operate.
Right.
And so they don't want it all disclosed, but I understand that, and I am hearing that there is a general movement that the data center industry is starting to come around to say, maybe we ought to not do as many of these non-disclosure. They are kind of backfiring, so they are reconsidering, even doing this. So we may see less of non-disclosure agreements that they're even bringing forward because they see the problem that it's causing.
Correct.
But I would say it's not an unusual thing in negotiating with large customers that you see those. And
Yeah.
Breezy,
So in economic development, we are often competing with other counties in the same metro area, other states, other countries even. And so we don't often have to sign NDAs, but
Right.
when it's requested of us, we do as a staff and as our board sign them. And it's really to protect the integrity of that project, not to keep it from the general public, but it's so that no one can go out and disclose that company is coming. And that is across the board, whether we're dealing with, Trader Joe's or Sprouts who's looking in the market. They don't want their competitor that's in direct competition with them to know that they're in a market.
That's
They don't
correct.
want that word getting out. If we're talking with a manufacturer, oftentimes it's an expansion project, and they may be looking to close a facility somewhere else in the country. And so when you think about wanting to negotiate a new location and how that's going, they don't want to send concern to the individuals who are working when they may not close that factory for 5 years because it's an intentional upgrade of technology and adding additional equipment. So data centers are not unique when it comes to having NDAs or not having things out in the open. A lot of it is just how the process works and the negotiation of it. But once that deal is in a space where we don't have to keep it a secret, we generally want the public to know. And from an economic development standpoint, we also lead workforce development for the community. So oftentimes we need it to be public early so that we can start getting residents into jobs. If there's upskilling or reskilling that need to happen for those individuals to compete for those jobs, We want that out very quickly. And so really, we only keep it behind closed doors and confidential for the necessary amount of time needed in order to just facilitate any kind of site, real estate, all of those things, just so that, again, the price doesn't triple because they know that
Because
it's
somebody else
coming.
knew and got
Exactly.
wind of who was coming.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I get that. But I was speaking from the mere fact of the commissioners. I don't know where the gentleman went, though. I was speaking from the commissioner side of things, that I don't go in the back room and make no deals. I let you guys know these are the deals. But when Breezy bring these types of deals to us, we don't even know who it really is. We get what you guys use some names
We
like
have to use
Project,
code names.
whatever.
project, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and so we don't know who it is, but I'm still making a decision based off of the information I have, and I'm not making decisions outside of you guys, not knowing what that may or may not be, so, thank you.
May I add
Yes.
one thing? Oh, go.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes, you go, you go.
Just to kind of maybe extend that discussion just a little bit, because I think some of the concern also extends beyond just bringing the project into a community. Because we get a lot, we're a public agency, so we're subject to the Georgia Open Records Act. We
Yes.
get open records requests. Believe it or not, for you individuals in here, we get a lot of requests for your personal information to be shared with all sorts of companies and people who want to do who knows what. With a lot of real estate folks want your information relative to your water use so that they can do who knows what with it. State law protects that information for you, which, I mean, makes a lot of sense, right? Well, that same state law that protects your personal information also protects the personal information of businesses and entities. So oftentimes when we respond to a request like that, we have to not disclose some of that information because it's protected under state law. Makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, and like Gary said, some information is also proprietary or trade secret, and if they disclose that to us as that type of information, again, by state law, we have to withhold that information. We can't release it to the public because it's their trade secret type information. So I just wanted to extend that beyond just bringing a project in, because it does go into the operational phase as well.
Yes, all I
Yes,
was
sir.
going to add is to your comment about inviting data center operators. I know that I personally extended the invitation to several different data centers that are here operating in our community or potential ones. So I'm not going to ask them to raise their hands, but we might have a few in the room.
Oh, okay.
So that was offered to them because just as much as you guys have questions, they want to know and understand your concerns.
Absolutely.
To be able to be in the room and to listen and understand. And that's not just here in Douglas, that's in the region, that's in the nation. This is not just an isolated conversation that we're just having here in our community. I'm on our state chamber association and we're having this conversation all over the state. So I just wanted you to know that invitation was, I'm about to knock my water over again. That invitation was extended. And then just to kind of echo what Gary and Breezy hit on in regards to the non-disclosure, that I've literally had face-to-face conversations with certain data centers that have made it a company policy that, and I don't know how external that is right now, that they are removing any kind of NDAs when they're talking about data center projects in communities because they've learned over time, again, go back 23 years ago, the way that project was navigated was very behind the curtain. Even when they joined the chamber, it was 5 years before we could even talk about the fact that Google was here. And they've learned and they know and understand the importance of including you all in the conversation to where they're starting to lighten that up. And lastly, the third point I was going to say is that even on the back end, when these projects are being worked by Elevate Douglas and and the Board of Commissioners and our county staff, city, you name it, they have also been very intentional. I know Breezy's worked really hard this year to kind of bridge the gap between connecting and making sure that if a commissioner is getting a phone call from a data center project and they're being asked questions, Breezy's done a great job at connecting and making sure that James's department is informed and creating spaces to where these projects are being communicated, even if it is under a project name and it is under an NDA, that the dots are being connected to where they're not blindsided by a commissioner coming and asking them questions or a citizen coming asking them questions. It's just closing that loop as much as we can to preserve the integrity of the disclosures as they need to be maintained, but also making sure that we're as informed as we can behind the curtain.
So they were invited. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Could I add before we start? Sorry.
Okay, 1 second.
I just want to say this will be my little disclaimer. I'm only speaking on behalf of the staff, the planning and zoning staff, development staff. We do not operate under non-disclosure agreements. We are full transparency on everything. We do not have to. We're on the public side. We fall under the Open Records Act.
That's
I'll
correct.
take it a step forward. All of our meetings are public. All of these would fall under a special use permit. Well, I say all, everything over 50,000 square feet. So falls under special use permit. There's public hearings on all of those. They are advertised. There's very strict advertisement deadlines that we have to adhere to. So, I mean, we take every step possible to be as transparent as possible. We encourage other public officials, department heads, not to meet with folks during that time after
Absolutely.
the application's
Yes.
been made, so there's no appearance of impropriety. Like, we take steps to try to avoid that. I have seen that mentioned for other areas in the country. I don't know if it's true or not, but for here, we do not operate that way.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Jerome A. Fitz, I've been living down here for 15 years, and for me personally, I just find it very strange that
There you go.
we have experts that come and talk about the benefits, but you never have people come to talk about the downside. That to me is a major problem, because you always want to hear both sides so people can make an informed decision. And in my personal opinion, if we already have 11 data centers in Douglasville/Douglas County, we don't need any more. It's about balance. When you start talking about that sound, it's about frequency. That's the reason why wildlife are going away and things like that. And one of the other biggest things is when you build things this massive, you can't get the land back. What about farm? Once again, it has to be a balance. So if the grid goes down, you can't eat that data center. You can't grow nothing in there. That's the problem. And my biggest thing about all of this is, once again, balance. We don't need any more in Douglasville. Because if we already have 11, if we getting tax money from that, the tax, however that goes, that means the money should be helping the county. You don't need any more. What's going on with that money that's already coming in? That's a problem. We can't get other businesses that can produce tax revenue. So this is my thing about this, because all bubbles burst. Douglas County ain't but so big. So we have all these massive buildings. Once again, what happens if the grid goes down? We all know power grids everywhere are going down. I'm not going to just say it's water. And as far as the data center goes, why don't all of them have solar panels on them? Why don't they collect rainwater? Nobody's talking about stuff like this. This is common sense things, because certain things like that actually affect communities. But I keep hearing, I never hear these things talked about at all. And I'm going to say it again, Douglas County ain't but so big. It should not just be big buildings everywhere we can't grow food in there. It's impossible. And we have food deserts.
Thank you,
So-
bro. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm happy to jump in on some
Okay.
of that. Number one, I tried to make a few notes, but solar, why they don't have solar on them. Well, first off, the data centers are going to operate 95% or more load factor, 24/7, 365. Solar is not the answer. It might help be a piece of this. And we have solar panels in South Georgia, but putting them on their building would not make a dent in what they are doing. And if you're going to have solar, you're going to have to build a lot of batteries and the battery farms, and I think the commission's got that to be considered next
Yes.
week.
Yes.
And I think the recommendation from staff is against it. So it's another issue about how big of battery storage places do you want if you're going to use solar. But solar only really works from about 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. is kind of or really 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. is your solar production window when you're going to get maximum amount out of solar. But if it's raining, it's cloudy, it's overcast, whatever, it's too unreliable as a resource. So you're not going to see a lot of it. It might be a piece that gets added in. I'm trying to think of some of the other questions. You had something on the power grid.
The grid going down. Yes.
I will tell you what we have with the data centers and what the state, is allowing is if we have a system emergency to the grid, we can take every data center offline. They've got backup generation that will run their facilities, and we can force them to come offline rather than having residential customers come off. Data centers come off first. So they are helping to protect the grid, and they're paying a lot of money to upgrade the grid, because all the improvements in the capacity of the grid, as I said, they're paying for this. They're paying for it up front, and we're modernizing the grid, and they're paying for it. So the grid is actually getting stronger. The data centers will come off first in a system emergency, type. So I don't want to leave, that misconception. And then you mentioned, 11 data centers. First, I'd say for all of us on the panel here today, we're not recruiting data centers. We're not trying to bring data centers. We're responding to data centers that are here or that call us at Greystone. I'm not out trying to bring a data center to Douglas County, but when they come to me and they want power, we will talk with them about, doing that. And the other thing I'll just touch on, this is out of my expertise here, but I would say these data centers are going to pay enough property taxes, enough sales taxes, enough franchise taxes that it could eliminate every property tax that the residential people in this county pay. There's
Potential.
enough money coming from them.
Potential.
Potentially.
Potential. Yeah, hold on.
Well,
Okay.
and they've got to be
okay.
fully operational. I have, people will say, well, I don't see it. Well, they're still building most of these. But the property tax, and I don't know what the county has done on it, but some of the analysis I know that I've seen with the Development Authority, over $100 million a year in property taxes. Well, you know what? The residential property tax base is about $100 million. That's why I say this. I know for a fact from what we've looked at, for three data centers, the three data centers that we're serving will pay annually $7 million in franchise fees, or there's two data centers that we're serving that's in the city limits of Douglasville. Those two data centers by 2031, I'm letting it get fully built, fully operational, will pay $7 million a year in franchise fees to the city of Douglasville. Local sales taxes that same time for three data centers, just three, now we mentioned 11, three, $8.6 million a year to the county. That's just the local portion that comes to the county. So there is a tremendous benefit that you can see. I mean, ultimately, if we can get it, property tax relief, from that, that can come from these. So there is a positive benefit. But I do want to say, we're not up here recruiting them, and we may talk about some of the positive, things with them, because that's what is left out of the conversation a lot, in my opinion.
I wanted to
Okay,
just add to the balance conversation.
Okay.
So the balance comes from zoning. That
Yes.
is how you get balance in your community, is you pay attention to future land use plans, you pay attention to comprehensive land use plans, you pay attention to overlay districts and zoning. So remember that all 201 square miles of Douglas County has a zoning classification, and that zoning decides what use can go there, what can happen there, and then whoever owns that land has to stay within those zonings. So when you think about balance and residential and all of that, that happens outside of this. That happens every 10 years. Y'all do your comprehensive land use.
That is correct.
But every time, the planning and zoning staff and then the planning and zoning board, they make those decisions every month about rezonings and zonings, and all of the balance conversation really it hinges on the zoning. And so if you are worried about balance and whether big buildings can go beside residential, pay attention to the zoning agendas that come out. Pay attention to what is being asked and requested of our zoning staff and of the zoning board, and then ultimately the Board of Commissioners, because
That's
they're
correct.
joint. They have the ultimate say on what happens in that regard. But pay attention to those things, because that is how we have balance. But to echo what we've said, we are not recruiting more.
Right.
We want additional opportunities when it comes to what would be classified as light industrial uses. So that is why we are actively pursuing pharmaceuticals and life sciences and other types of uses. Data centers are not a targeted sector for us anymore.
But let's be clear now, that doesn't stop the data centers and anybody that decides
coming,
to want to actually come and be a part of Douglas County, then that's their choice. And for that particular land use or owner of that particular piece of land, it's up to he or she to say, yes, I'll sell my farm
Right.
and make it this or that. And then it'll be up to us, planning and zoning, starting with these guys, to say if by chance we would rezone it to be light industrial or whatever that. So there's a process. It's just not, it's just not one and done. So thank you, and I appreciate that. And guys, let me try to move it a little bit faster here because we're going to be running out of time here. Yes, sir.
Okay, on the subject of environmental assessment, I've heard a lot about like resource consumption with a curious lack of numbers, but more concerning to me is the ecological impact, which I've heard nothing on from this panel, and like the health impact. And also on the subject of noise, which I heard brought up earlier, I wanted to comment that the noise pollution from data centers is generally infrasound, which is not audible, but which does have impacts to human health.
And by the way, I did ask a scientist, a doctor, or somebody to kind of speak on that behalf. And I don't know if you guys, I can't speak to that, whether or not that's happening or not. But from what I gathered from those that spoke to me about it, the data is not there, the information is not there. And so we don't know what that type of an impact would be, meaning...
Well, also, okay, sorry. My understanding is also that data centers are exempt from a lot of these environmental reviews and stuff like that are normally applied in other businesses.
Not from my knowledge, no, but I could be wrong.
I mean, they follow the standard review
Right.
process as any other projects in the county. We don't have any.
Okay.
I don't think there's no sidestepping that with anybody, any development. So,
All right.
But I don't have the answer to that, though. No, I don't. Thank you.
Commissioner, I can speak a little bit,
Sure, okay.
at least on part of the environmental aspect. Part of what the Water and Sewer Authority does in the community is we manage the public stormwater system. Part of that is development control relative to both during construction and post-construction stormwater management. Part of those programs do require them to hold, retain, treat stormwater runoff so that it's not creating an adverse impact. Part of that is pollution prevention. So if a development has certain constituents, they have to show that they are at least retaining, if not treating and removing those constituents. So they follow, again, their standard rules and policies, but they fall under those guidelines just like any other development would. So at least from part of the environmental questions you asked, that part is addressed in any development, whether it's a data center or not.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jackie Cooper, and I do a lot of work here in Douglas County as far as community outreach. And so I was one, and I've said this before, that I was one of those who went in gun-ho about another data center. No way. No way. We can't, do this, because my first concern will be for the constituents as well as myself, because I've been here for 20 years. And so when I took the time to get the knowledge behind data centers, because I had no knowledge. I had none. I was just, the county is going to give them an exemption, and what about the water and the electricity and all these things? But I took the time, and I will encourage everyone to not just jump on the bandwagon about certain things. I ain't talking about just the data center. We passed that. Y'all said no, so we passed that. I'm talking about, they can't come back, but we're talking about today. And so I'm talking about anything in reference to Douglas County, not just a data center, not just a Dollar General, anything. Go to the planning and zoning, like they said. Go to the planning and zoning. Go to the commissioner board meetings. Go talk to Sarah and whoever else, Breezy, anybody, to get the information before passing judgment on anything that comes to this county. Anything. It's a lot of things that y'all on the bandwagon about a data center, but y'all are not on the bandwagon about a $300,000 pizza party, or $37 million, or being in a deficit every year. Why is that? Why is that? And how can we combat that? We need to open our eyes, not just for a data center, not just about a data center, about everything that takes place in Douglas County. Everything. You should be concerned about everything. Everything. Because it will affect every one of us, or even our kids to come, grandkids to come, in our future. So let's stop getting beside, jumping on the bandwagon about a data center. But I really would wish y'all would go get the information. I walked that land. I visit 3 data centers myself to hear. I pulled up, Georgia laws about your electricity, your water usage, all that. I talked to a lot of people. I got the information for myself. And I seen the benefit in the data center coming for the constituents of Douglas County. I seen it for myself. So get the information, not just about a data center, but get the information for everything in reference to this county for yourself.
Thank you, Jackie. Appreciate it. Thank you. All righty.
Commissioner, could I just mention one? Sorry, I
Sure.
don't mean to interrupt, but Ms. Cooper, a lot of great points. One thing I would add, at least from my personal perspective, if you have a question about a water-related issue, ask. Like, call me. My number is 770-920-3811.
Woo.
That is my direct line. 770-920-3811. Call us. I see so many comments online, or so much chatter, or so much things about, and again, I'm the water guy, right? So I'm focused on that. Like, nobody's asked us. Like, call. Like, I'm happy to talk about things relative to our community and how we manage our resource, but just reach out and ask. So thank you for those comments.
And Gil, that's why we're doing this here now,
Yeah.
just because of what you just stated, because we want you guys to have access and be transparent about what it is that you guys want to know. That's the whole purpose of this. The data center thing that happened, voted for, it's all done and over. That's water under the bridge. We're talking about
Non-potable water.
not drinking water.
Gray water.
So, yes, stormwater.
Stormwater.
So what we're talking about now is so we can at least make an educated decision. This information is just so we can make an educated decision. Not that you agree with it or not. That doesn't mean I'm trying to change your mind about a data center. I'm not. I'm only just trying to make sure that whatever's being stated here, and I agree with my brother, and I call him my little brother, though I think he left here, but I agree with him that there should have been another side of this, and I agree. So we will probably bring that other side. I think you're right. Not that I didn't invite them. I was just trying to at least get to the experts, because I would love to have had Trent up here that talks about the school board. How would that impact us? I want any and everybody that can tell us the story, but also I want to hear the downside too, though. So I think it's only fair. That's why I'm open and wanting to hear your point of view, not that your point of view is wrong because you're against it or you're for it. But that part doesn't matter. I want these guys to be able to at least tell us how it would affect us in whatever way: water, sewer, electric, power, infrastructure, you name it. So thank you. I'm sorry. I'm off my rant.
Hi, my name is Christian St. Prix. I'm actually studying electrical
Can you speak up a little bit louder? Okay.
I'm studying electrical engineering at Kennesaw State University, so this stuff is kind of fascinating.
Hey, come on.
But first, I want to second what you just said. I do think that everybody should get involved more, especially people that are around my age. But I have 2 questions. The first one is I think a lot of people, myself included, don't quite understand the potential tax incentives that might be given to companies that are interested in investing in Douglasville. Could you talk a little bit about what that system would be, or how that process goes with data centers? Because I think a lot of the fear that we might have is what kind of incentives might these companies be given, whether or not that's a fair incentive or not. That's question number 1. I'm working on a second.
Hold on. Now you can't get about 3 or 4. Now get one more in. Now this gonna do it.
The second one is also, if we are to be like informed citizens, I think it'd also be helpful for us to understand what red flags you guys think we should be on the lookout as citizens to know whether or not a data center is becoming more of a hindrance than a benefit. So if you guys could speak about it, I know some of you even live in Douglasville, so if you could.
No, they pretty much all do. But okay, got you. Okay, who want to start with this? Breezy, you want to start on your end? And let's kind of, because we're running out of time.
No.
So if you would, please.
Yeah, no, happy to. So we operate under the tax incentive program, which is approved by both the City Council and the Board of Commissioners.
Yes.
The newest one was done in 2020, I believe, was the latest update to the ordinance. So it's an ordinance-based tax incentive. And under that, any business that would like to apply for a tax incentive must first fall under a targeted industry sector. So every time we do a strategic plan, We hire professionals. We update our targeted industry sectors. So that's the first eligibility. The second one is that they have to pay a minimum of the county's current average hourly wage, which is done, posted every quarter by the Department of Labor. So you can find that on the Georgia Department of Labor in their local area profiles. They will give us our quarterly average hourly wage. And right now in Douglas County, it's $25.83 is our current county average wage. So in order for us to consider a tax incentive for any project, they need to be in a targeted industry sector and pay that. And then it needs to be a minimum of $20 million. And that is that's actually not in the ordinance. But in order to do a tax incentive, there are a lot of things that go into it. And so for it to make any sense, that's the minimum investment that would be needed. No company pays zero in the tax incentive. That is what I need you to understand. This is not saying, please come to Douglas County and you will not pay taxes in our community. That is not how it works. It is typically a scheduled approach. So it's more aggressive on the first 3 years and then it tapers off. And by year 8 or 9, they're paying 90% of what is due, and it's typically just on real and or personal property, depending on the project. Of the data centers that are operational or under construction, only 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 have a tax incentive. So let that be your message, that we don't give them to everyone. We don't offer them to everyone. Douglas County has 3,500 businesses in Douglas County, and currently we have 10 companies on a tax incentive plan.
So I hope
you
that
can do the math on that.
Yeah, I hope that answered your question. I don't know, James, you want to chime in on that, and then we'll kind of move on to the next.
Sure. I'll just say, we've worked to kind of decouple that tax incentive from the planning and zoning process.
Yes.
So they're not intertwined. So the zoning is handled separately, and then the zoning's handled separately, and then there is a policy in place where the abatements and all would be handled through the county administration in cooperation with that. Secondly, I would like to add, you mentioned how do we know what's important to you all? So I don't know what's important to you. I don't want to try to decide what's important to you and what's not important to you. So what I would encourage is come to all of the planning and zoning meetings with anything that you're concerned with. Most of these, particularly the larger projects, we always have community information meetings beforehand. Those are usually several weeks in advance. You can come speak. Those will usually have the applicants on site with them. You can ask questions. Sometimes they're able to get answers and be more comfortable. Sometimes they're a very solid no, or sometimes they're a very solid yes, but you'll at least have that information. So you can come to the meeting prepared, let the board know. They're all public hearings, so just get involved. So I appreciate your involvement. I would encourage everyone else to be involved as well.
And I'll add too, though, on the Board of Commissioners side, we actually created a commission called the Tax Abatement Committee. Yes. So because we wanted to address, and still are trying to address, what you just stated, because the myth is that we just give it all away with the kitchen sink. We don't. But we are trying to either make some adjustments there, which I think we should, and I highly have recommended that we do, but we just haven't had much traction at that committee level trying to make those adjustments. However, we just offer to Breezy and her team, here's what you guys can use as an abatement. And that's what they use. But when it comes to us, then it's, I don't want that. That we gave away the kitchen sink. And it's like, but you gave her the tools, one of which to go and use that to attract the business here. And let's be clear and honest. You will have to give up something. And in most cases, we try to give up zero. They might even go next door. That's what you potentially could lose. But that doesn't mean that that's the right thing to do. And it's definitely not the only thing. But if we're trying to use these guys to attract this, what is the carrot that we're trying to get them to come? Okay? Hopefully that answers your question. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Susan Bowie. I'm with Sweetwater Indivisible. And thank you, panel, for being here. You've given us
You're not going to thank me?
I have not. I'm not done with you.
I'll go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hang on. You've given us a lot of great information, and I think more of these are warranted. But my question is for you, Commissioner, and thank you so much for holding this. But my question for you is, you said under transparency, and you used that word quite a bit, you said, I'm not one, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not one to sit around in the back room and make deals. And then you said, but I don't speak for my other commissioners. So you kind of insinuated that maybe they're making deals, and I want to give you the opportunity.
I got it. So
Because I want to know, are they making deals?
Okay, so let me clear this up. Let me clear this up. I can only speak for Commissioner Henry Mitchell III. So that's why I say I can't speak, because if I had not said that, then it would have been said, well, Commissioner Mitchell said that we all do it. So I'm only speaking today and on behalf of District 1 Commissioner Henry Mitchell III.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right. I'm not insinuating that my colleagues are back there doing some crazy stuff now, so I'm, No. Oh, okay. And we got to speed this up a little bit, guys, and I know we got quite a few want to kind of jump in here, so.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner, and I really want to compliment the panel for being here, because someone was saying having 2 or 3 sides, but I'm hoping that this panel would only have one side, because if a data center or anything else is good for the community, it's good for them, and if it's bad for the community, it should be bad for you all also. So I commend you on that. I think that when we look at, I'm a property owner and also a retired educator, and I used to teach economics, and the word in economics is called supply and demand. And supply and demand is what determines what's going to happen in Douglas County. And if you don't keep up, you'll be behind. And I knew we were about 20, they said we were about 25 years behind in infrastructure. And a data center got approved across the street from me when it first came in, and they were talking about it, and I said, oh, no. But one of the things I found was that they were willing to work with our community. In our community, I own some property across the street, and had several people wanted me to build a house for them. To build a house, it takes 3 acres, because our land drains into the Bear Creek catch basin, and you have to have
Dog River, but
Dog River. I'm sorry. Yes, Dog River catch basin. You have to have 3 acres, and of course, you can't. That's just not the best use of the property. But this particular data center, they were going to go to the school system and bring the sewage under the expressway over to that project, all the way up to the top of the street, right across from my house. If they bring from there, then it'd be easier for you all to bring other sewage, but that community is just stifled. It's sitting there, and it can't develop, it can't grow, it can't do anything. On that particular street, it's about 50 houses, and none of the kids who graduate, not any of my kids go away to college, they're not coming back, because they're not gonna buy a house on a septic system. They're just not gonna do it. But I think that, and we were talking earlier about the tax things, my taxes have almost doubled. And I think that if you work it right, because one of the numbers that was thrown around, I don't know if it was right or not, but in that particular data center, that over a 15-year period, it would generate $850-something million in taxes. And when you talk about a tax basis of less than $150 million in the whole county, and you talk about that kind of money, and then $60-something million every year after the 15-year period exists, this is a perfect opportunity for us to maybe put a hold on apartments and this type thing, but get as much of those money as we can, but develop this community. You're gonna need, every time you build an apartment building, it's gonna affect your sheriff's department, the fire department, everything. And if we plan it right, and just in some of my research I did, like you were talking about, in Virginia is one of the #1 school systems in the nation. They have more data centers than anybody else, but they have it. It takes money to do that, and there's no place. The opportunity to get money is through these data centers, but make sure that Commissioner knows that if y'all approve one, that there are no incentive to come in, that they are paying and making this community better and not worse than when they come in. So again, thank you all so much for that, and I appreciate it. And
thank you, Mr. Danley. We appreciate it. Okay. All righty. Come on down.
Thanks so much. I'm so glad y'all are here. It's been very informative. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. My main thing is I've heard so many different numbers of data centers. Like we already have 19, we have 11. There's one a hyperscale being built on Echo Road. Correct? Yeah. Amazon Web Services.
It's right off of Echo.
Oh, right off Echo Road, yeah, because they're putting the dirt near my house. Yeah, so that's another hyperscale. So we have 3 hyperscales?
Yes, the world has 5, and 3 of them call Douglas County home: Google, Microsoft, and AWS.
Okay. And then I'd heard when I went to a meeting on a Saturday with the Democrats of Douglas, and Kimberly Alexander had said something about maybe we have slated for 24 possibly. Is that correct?
You want to ask her where she got that from?
Yes.
I'm asking y'all because they don't all have permits. I know that we don't have permits.
So what we're trying to get at, though, is
I'm trying to get at how many do we have
Okay.
that somebody can come and put a permit and ask for planning and zoning?
Well,
Total.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, James, because
Okay.
I was going to answer, but then the question pivoted.
so for who can ask for a new permit, anyone can ask for a new permit. 10 people could show up tomorrow and ask for a new permit. Now, all of those would go through the typical process, the typical review, typical public hearings, and the board would have to make a decision if they want those.
So how many total zoning areas do we have right now? Is it 19 or 24?
You want to know how many data centers we have?
Thank,
Okay, so
and
I will
how
tell
many
you.
are slated? Yes, thank you.
Okay, so currently existing and operational, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay.
We have 4 under construction, so they've been fully permitted and ready.
Okay.
So they are under construction. And then we have 3 that is considered proposed or in the design phase. So they have, they're zoned appropriately, so they can go vertical, they can do what they want, but they either haven't started clearing land, they're still proposed, they're waiting on a power contract, something to that effect. We have 3. So that would be a total of, 8, 4, and 3?
15.
So 15.
And
So
I'll-
I don't know, the 24 is definitely not the number.
Okay, thank you. That's what, we hear, that's why we're here. You hear
Yes,
a lot
absolutely.
of, I've heard so many different numbers. The other thing is that I was real concerned about is the one, they wanted to do the hyperscale that backs up to Clinton Farm and would go hook into Dog River
Yeah,
Basin.
That was,
And planning and zoning denied it one time, and they came back and did more things, wanted conservation, wanted a walking trail, and planning and zoning denied it again for the same reasons Mr. Danley said, the improper infrastructure right now for that. But they can come back in like 4 months, and it can be ongoing. So
6.
would you answer that about if that one were to go through, were they going to hook into Dog River to use that water for their closed loop data center?
So I can answer your question. Probably it's a little bit different question you're asking,
Okay.
and I think James will talk about them coming back or whatever.
Okay.
So that particular project known as Keaton Creek, Keaton Creek Reserve, something like that, they were not using any water for cooling. So from a water supply standpoint, their use is domestic. So however many employees they have, they're going to, use water for, bathrooms and stuff like
Okay.
that. So they're not a big water user. They were going to come onto the sewer systems. They're going to have sewer needs, like Mr. Danley was saying. We don't have sewer in that area. That's very strategic, believe it or not. We don't have sewer in that area on purpose. They were going to extend the sewer system a couple of miles and hook up actually to the same sewer system. Mr. Danley was mentioning that other data center was going to bring across the interstate for Waldrop Farms or whatever that data center's called. So they were going to hook up to the potable water system, but a very small user. And again, as I go back to long-term planning, when we looked at that 700 acres or whatever size property that was, the future land use map shows that as houses. So we planned for X number of houses, that much water. This was less than that. From a water standpoint, that checks that box. We were very concerned with the location of that property relative to the Dog River Reservoir and being in
Correct.
what we call the watershed, meaning the rainfalls that goes into the reservoir. So we have watershed protection measures in place to protect the water quality. And they were meeting those. It is why they were acquiring several hundred
Okay.
acres for conservation, because we have a density requirement relative to water quality. And so they were meeting that by, developing only a portion of the property they
Okay.
were acquiring. So they're meeting the regulations for that watershed protection.
So we don't have any studies on potable water going through our water treatment plant and what it might could do with any possible toxins and stuff that would come out of one of those with a closed loop?
So on the closed loop system, because their systems don't interact with the water system at all, it's just like your cooling system at your house or in your car. It is a closed system. It's got a coolant, a refrigerant inside of the pipe. The water they use is for, flushing toilets and water fountains and things like that. When they flush their toilets, we get that back. We don't get anything out of a closed loop cooling system.
Okay.
It doesn't interact with the water
Well,
system.
thank you very much. All I would ask for is a moratorium on no more permits for data centers for at least a year until we get studies on anything with water, studies on the other things mentioned, environmental and health, because I do know in Virginia there are a lot of problems with cancer from all of those, and then also in Mississippi as well. So I could be wrong, but I think we need a study. So we need a moratorium so we can do a study, since we already have, forgot the number already you said, 14 or so. I think Douglas County has done their due diligence on providing AI for West Georgia. So
Thank you.
somebody else can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. All righty.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And thank you for hosting this forum, Commissioner, and thank you to the panelists. It's been very informative. I have a question about the long-term benefits for the community and how those are incorporated into the review process, particularly when you think of carbon emissions that are emitted from the data centers. I didn't hear anything about renewable energy and any ISO certifications that are part of the process. So I'd like to know about that. And then secondly, about the benefits to the community, because surely the companies are benefiting long-term from the revenue generated through their processing here. So things such as community programs, reskilling, training programs, and other types of long-term community benefits. I know there are thresholds on the water limits, so I appreciate that, but I'd like to know about those things too, please.
I can tackle the community benefits agreements.
100%.
Yes. So part of what we do in economic development is, it can't be a win-only situation for the business. It has to be a win-win for the community and the business. And so part of what we do from the very first conversation with any company that's looking to come to Douglas County is to say, will you be a good corporate citizen? How will you give back? These are the priorities for us. And so I'm going to give you very specific examples of how data centers specifically have given back to our community. Google, I'm going to start with Google because they are an easy one to do. So they Wi-Fi downtown Douglasville. So every business in our historic downtown has Wi-Fi. If you walk through downtown, you have Wi-Fi. They also, during COVID, they put Wi-Fi on school buses with our school system and helped any kid that was virtual learning have access to free Wi-Fi so that they could get their learning done. Google also does a lot to give back that has nothing to do with technology. They have supported our fire station and our fire education programs. So as I mentioned earlier, Elevate Douglas is the workforce development engine for Douglas County. So we oversee and initiate initiatives around workforce development. Google has been a funder of workforce development in Douglas County since I started trying to do this in 2017. They give anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000 a year to support workforce development. Right now, we have 23 individuals, Douglas County residents, doing a 4-week, 160-hour construction program where they're getting 10 certifications through Construction Ready, which is Georgia's leading construction program. And through the donations that Google and AWS have given, we are able to pay those individuals a stipend. And we know when people are trying to turn their lives around or when they're trying to upskill or reskill, you can't ask them to go spend 40 hours a week in a classroom without giving them something, because they still have bills to pay. They need gas money to get there. And so we are the only construction ready program in the state of Georgia that offers a stipend to the participants. And because of that, we have a 100% graduation rate and a 100% placement rate. And so we are training individuals to meet the demands of not just jobs of today, but jobs of tomorrow. And we've been doing those type of things. Microsoft gave $750,000 to West Georgia Technical College in order to open Georgia's first data center academy. So we will be training data center technicians. In order to be a data center technician, you do not need a bachelor's degree. You don't even need skill sets needed. And now West Georgia Tech will be championing and educating individuals to go work worldwide should they want to do that. And so AWS opened 3 grocery stores in 3 of our schools that have food deserts. They were identified. More than 90% of the children in those schools receive free and reduced lunch. They partnered with Gooder, and now those schools have grocery stores in their schools. We also opened a Girls in Tech program and a learning lab that has STEM programs for all students in elementary, middle, and high school. None of those things would have been done in our community without the partnerships of our data centers. And they come every time we ask, they come and they say, what do you need? They go to Dr. North, and Dr. North gives them a list. They planted trees at Boundary Waters. They're here. They are being great corporate citizens. And so long term, those are the community benefits agreements that we really work hard to achieve, and we try to do that with every industry that calls Douglas County home.
And I think I can just add one tiny thing, is that those conversations aren't happening once they're open and operating. And respectfully, like our Board of Commissioners, our City Council members, Elevate Douglas, they're kind of putting their toes to the fire of, it's not like, what are you going to do in 5 years when you're up and operating? It's, what are you going to do tomorrow? What are you going to do before you're even here? And I mean, we've all been a personal testament to those conversations and how they want to lean in and being proactive about how they're engaging our community versus, you know, getting here and being like, oh, well, now we're here and we're going to show up. So.
To the question on emissions, and I'm not exactly sure, because none of these data centers have on-site generation, so I'm not aware of what emissions, if you're talking about specifically from the data center building itself, that there are. I'm not aware that there are any emissions, from that. When you talk about renewables, we do, when we talk with data centers, a portion of how we're meeting their load at their request is in renewables. We are looking at our nuclear. We're selling them. They want nuclear. We're willing to sell on nuclear. The nuclear out of units 3 and 4 is the most expensive wholesale power that I buy. I've got data centers that are interested in buying it. If they take it, I can lower, again, cost to our residential members by taking the most expensive generation source. And, so they do want to, pick up that or take the, and pay for credits, RECs and stuff like that come out of the nuclear. So that is a piece of it, but by and large, they're going to be served by natural gas for the most part, given the amount of energy that they do consume.
I'd like to chime in on that too, if I can, just real quick. You also talked about what benefits they provide. For every dollar of local public services that a data center consumes, they contribute about $26 in tax revenue back to the county. So if you can do that math real quick, you can see how that benefits you enormously. Also, we also have a partnership at Georgia Power with Google. Google are really good partners. So opportunities that we see in the community, data centers and manufacturers drive statewide economic growth. They also add to the tax base and expand it and offer high quality jobs. Many large energy users of data centers also support local nonprofits, schools, and community initiatives. And Google and Georgia Power are working on the efficiency efforts for customers. So we're helping with bill pay, rental assistance, and things like that. So they are very good folks to have in the community.
Thank you, Trevor.
So actually, my question or statement is to all of this: in the spirit of transparency and technology, I recommend like a dashboard with all these things, right? So as a manufacturer that actually works for a manufacturer that supports this industry, I work for Southwire, so Georgia Power, Greystone, y'all are familiar with where I work. But I was just saying, I think if we could have an annual report that showed the permanent jobs from the data centers, the local hires, the wages, the tax revenue received, the incentives granted, the infrastructure costs, the water consumption, community investment. So again, just one annual dashboard that showed all these things. So in the spirit of transparency, residents can see it and they'll see kind of what they're bringing. So all that goes together. So that was just a statement for me.
ElevateDouglas.com.
Okay.
Our annual reports are up there. It tells you all of those things. Plus we have a lot of resources available at the Hub Douglas, which is the workforce development site, and then DC Collaborative is where you can find our support for local businesses who are looking to contract and get additional contracting opportunities with construction and with data centers as well. So ElevateDouglas.com.
Okay, right.
It's my only plug.
Yes, Elevate Douglas. Elevate Douglas. Great little dashboard. unless you're going to come on the county side and start trying to help us put this all together that you think is a great, tool of resources. Yes, and we're going to, this is probably going to be the last of the question is the Q&A, but these guys may hang around for a couple of minutes. I can't mandate that they hang around. I can try, but this is going to probably wrap it all up, and we'll let you do the closing.
Okay, my name is Thomas Sledge. Thank y'all for having
And I
this.
did pass your information up to Gary.
Yes, thank y'all for having this meeting today. To Mrs. Stratton comments, to Mr. Quander, I heard a lot about the evolution of data centers in Georgia. I had an opportunity to speak with a gentleman in Loudoun County, Virginia, Mr. Robert Carey. He was at the forefront of the data center movement there. There was an article came out this week saying that tax revenues were projected to be $1.3 billion in 2027, and how they had reduced their property tax rates for the last 10 years for their customers, and they've reduced them by 30%. Just a comment on some of the things I heard about noise pollution. There's two types of data centers. There are on-grid data centers and off-grid data centers. On-grid data centers, there are generators, that noise that you hear, you don't hear that noise unless the data center goes down, the power goes down. Off-grid data centers, they run off turbine engines to run their diesel generators. So they run 24/7. So that's the difference, and that's the noise that you hear. Yes, I wanted to talk about, can we include in the conversation in your planning for your power usage and all of the planning, can we include in the conversation modernized data centers? In the last 5 years, data centers have changed tremendously as far as the emissions that they put into the air, as far as their noise pollution, as far as how they control their heat in the environment. They have made tremendous strides and improvement. And I think that's a lot of times when we talk about data centers, we talk about the status quo data centers or the past data centers, but we don't include the technology and the advancements that data centers have made over the last 5 years. And so when we were doing our estimates of how we're going to have power usage, how it affects the environment, I think that needs to be included into the conversation. Also, data centers, designers and providers are now becoming more attentive to communities and how they put them into communities. I heard a lot of conversation about data centers in my backyard. Well, now people who want to build data centers now are paying attention to communities, and they're saying they're going to communities and saying, getting community input on how they want to input these things into their community. And so my biggest thing is that we would pay attention to the fact that data centers are modernized now, and they don't do to the environment what they did 10 years ago. Right. They're much better and much improved. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that.
What a great closer.
Yeah, that's right. Do you want to come sit up here?
Yeah, he should be on the panel next time. Just bring him up here.
Wow. Well, let me just say thank you to all of you, and thank you for at least being adults and having an adult conversation. And I'm just proud of us today. I'm proud to say that we did an excellent job of agreeing and disagreeing, and it's okay. So thank you for coming, and thank you for just all that you want to be a part of. And like somebody said earlier, you might want to start coming to some of the meetings, like the planning and zoning meetings. You might want to come to the commission meetings, the committee meetings, because that's when the rubber meets the road. If you don't, then you'll only be speculatively trying to say what things are that may not be. So be careful, because your voice to me is important. And I know I'm only speaking for me, so don't take that as okay. You know how that could go left. So, but I want to say thank you to you guys, and we'll have more of these. Thank you to my panelists. You guys did an excellent job, and you guys have a safe trip home, and we did it good. 8 o'clock on the nose. Thank you again.